6:03 and call the meeting to order. Consent agenda first, previous minutes, if there's no questions about those, I entertain a motion to approve those.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Rachel's made the motion, Kua,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay, policy, the first read, we have, child abuse and neglect reporting, student education records, animal investigation, proficiency-based graduation requirements. Any questions on any of those? Okay, I entertain a motion to approve those.
Make the motion.
Sarah made the motion, Akua,
Aye.
Rachel,
Aye.
I'm an aye. Okay, recognition of visitors, I see we have some visitors today. You guys wanna introduce yourselves, or?
Sure. I'm
You're.
Sandy Loveless.
Nice to meet you. And did you guys, here specifically for anything?
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah, anytime you.
Start it right now?
Yeah.
All right. I was told that at the end of the last year's school year, there was no final exams given. Is that a true statement?
Yes, at my school, yours?
Yes. I don't know if are you asking for?
I'm
what?
just asking the board if there was no final exams given last year.
Well, there are some classes that give final exams, but they don't do a final exam scheduled the way they did traditionally.
And why is that?
They haven't for years. Since we moved to proficiency-based graduation requirements, they haven't done the traditional exam schedule. They do exams in classes. A lot of classes will give tests or final projects or summatives in some way, but they aren't where it's a week period where you only come in on certain days.
Can I ask why you're asking?
Yeah, I'm asking because, in order to finish out a school year or a class, you have to have, in history, have a final grade. And if you don't have a final exam, if you were in the gray area of whether passing or failing, if you don't have a final exam, you're still in limbo, and you might need that if you're gonna continue on to a higher education. So my question is the reason why, and I don't understand that the new type of, what you're saying, learning,
Proficiency-based education requirements.
is there some policy there that I could read?
Yes.
To
There is,
understand
There
that?
is.
So that was just up, so that one is G5. There's also law in Vermont around proficiency-based graduation requirements. I will tell you the exam part, so I think that there are still assessments at the end of the year.
Right.
Some of them are in the form of a test, some of them, like Beth said, are in the form of a project or something else. But what we don't do anymore is give that 5 days in the middle of the year and 5 days at the end of the year where kids basically don't have any classes. 10 days is too much for them to miss in terms of instructional time over only a 175-day school year. So we made that decision years ago to move away from that model, keep kids in school, and those exams or projects happen right within the block that they have within the schedule. It's not an exemption for kids to not come to school for those days.
And is it certain classes that have that, you know, let's say science, math, English, reading, what? Is that part of the,
That have
that
assessments?
don't, or do, that have the exemptions of, that don't have exams?
Well, any of the classes could have an exam, but we just don't do it in the exam schedule like they did like when I was in school. I've been the principal of Richford for 10 years, and I don't think that they've done the traditional exam schedule in 10 years. Do you, Todd? I think it was before me, right? Yeah. So it was before I took over as principal of Richford High School that they haven't done the traditional exam schedule like they had in the past.
So is the out the door on the let's say where a student rates in the class, is that no longer, in their graduating class? Do they no longer do your number one in the class, your number two? Is that gone out the door too?
2020 was the last year in Franklin Northeast that they did that. In the
Well,
year 2020.
That we did the Val Sal, but we
With the
still
Val-
can produce a rank.
We do still do Latin honors, and students are recognized cum laude or magna cum laude,
summa
or
cum
How are
laude.
they
by a
recognized?
GPA.
But
a grade
how does
point A.
anyone, is it on their diploma? Is it on just their permanent record so that when they go to,
It's on their transcript. They're recognized at graduation with braids or ropes, and it's in the graduation program.
so you're still acknowledging, in one form or another,
Academic excellence.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So the year, I think that we started doing Latin honors before that we stopped Val Sal in this supervisory union, and we made sure that the class of 2020 was the last class that recognized Val Sal because we were the policy was being changed when they were freshmen, and we wanted to make sure that if they started on that system, that they ended on that system. So for several years, we did Latin honors and Val Sal until that cohort of students had graduated from high school.
So it's since the time that the schools have kind of consolidated, is that like?
No, it was
was
before
before that.
That's
then.
not really-
It was
yeah.
before then.
Okay, and this policy was done by the school board,
Yes.
by you people, or by the Franklin Supervisory Union?
So the policies all go through all the boards. So we have a policy committee that works through the policies and they bring them to the boards for approval or for feedback. So it has to go through, any policy that goes live has to be approved by the NMV board 2 times. That's the pre-K through 8 schools, Bakersfield, Berkshire, Montgomery, Sheldon, and it has to be approved through this board, the Enosburg-Richford board 2 times, and then the Franklin Northeast board 2 times. And that's all in the meetings, those are done, they just did it in the open part of the first section of the meeting.
There has to be unanimous for all the different places, or can it still happen that one school chooses not to?
No, they're SU policies. They can give feedback, a board can say, we don't approve this, and then we bring the feedback back to the policy committee. The policy committee takes that into consideration and then would push the policy back out and you would start over again.
Okay, is these
I-
written down anywhere?
Yeah,
It won't be approved though, until November, if it goes through both boards. This is the first month that it's going through this board, so it has to go through this month and next month before it can be
well,
live on
this
the website.
version,
This version,
right.
yeah.
And where will I find the policy, the new type of,
If you go on the Franklin Northeast Supervisory Union website,
yep,
the policies are listed there under school board.
okay.
Clarification, in days of old, there was valedictorian and salute. I understand that, no, well, now we taught magna and summa cum laude. How many magnas and summas are there?
Well, what's the top one? I can't remember.
I think it's
Summa.
the magnet.
Summa's the top one.
Summa's the top, and that's the very top. I can't remember the grade point average for that, can you?
I could look at it somewhere, but
So there's very few of them, summa, and then there's a greater number of magna. So it's like,
I think it's about 10 kids.
10 summas and 15 magnas.
No,
No,
10
no.
total of all of them. It varies from year to year.
So it's 4 summas and 6 magnas. whatever.
Something like
But more than one.
more than one.
more than one or
Correct.
two, yes.
More than one or two, yeah.
Okay, and my next question was to do with, commencement speaker for the students. How is that decided on? By teachers or by students?
In Richford or
Okay.
Enosburg, it's different.
I mean,
It's different, okay?
Are you asking for Richford or you're asking for Enosburg?
Either one, I don't care.
well, we'll each answer.
So Richford, when we stopped Val Sal, we still wanted to honor academic excellence. So we decided the president of our National Honor Society is one speaker. And the president of our senior class is the other speaker.
So the president of the senior class, and that in history has always been a popularity type thing, more so than academic. Because,
Well, this year, our president of our National Honor Society and our president of our senior class is sitting behind you. And so it's the same person. And so I think that probably it will be the vice president of one of them this year, because she isn't gonna do two speeches. Are you, Megan? No, I didn't. But
At Enosburg, it's chosen by the senior class, the members of the senior class.
again, kind of a popularity more so than academic.
well, we have National Honor Society, which is definitely academics.
But Enosburg is done by the senior class.
Yes.
Okay. I guess I'm done.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
I'm here about the building over by the soccer fields.
Okay.
It was built by the school, correct?
Yes.
So why was it never upkept by the school?
This is the one where the foundation.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it has been upkept by the school, but the foundation failed. So
Okay.
the walls of the foundation have made it structurally unsafe.
I'm gonna stop you right there because I have been selling stuff in that snack shack for years and I have never seen, we've told them about different things. The water coming from the ceiling going through the door, the soffits, the everything that was rotting there. Not one person in the last at least 3 years, if not 4, nobody has been there. So I'm not talking only about the cement
foundation.
and the cellar and all that stuff. I understand that that's another one of my major questions. All I hear is how dangerous that building is. It's dangerous. Why is there not one thing stopping kids and people walking up the stairs going to use the bathrooms? If it's so dangerous that I've heard about, I wanna know why they're allowed to get up to that building.
That's a great question.
People go there, aren't the bathrooms working? They're up there knocking on the door, trying all the doors, the kids are up there playing. If it's so dangerous that we've been told this, because a few years ago, I sent a letter to the principal of Enosburg and to the Vogue Center. There was 3 people, I'm not sure who the third person was. I asked who was gonna upkeep it, I had my concerns and all this stuff about the building, and you know what I got? 3, not my problems. That's what I got. Not my problem, no, nothing more, not my problem.
How long ago was that, Sandy?
It's gotta be at least 2, if not 3 years ago. I couldn't even tell you who the principal was at the time. But I got the addresses, I think I emailed. And I got a thing back from Nate, not my problem.
I wasn't aware of that piece of it. It is our responsibility to do the upkeep on that building. I don't know about the water leak. Certainly we can have a conversation afterwards.
Oh, there's more, but
We
that
have
was one
had
of the main things.
a facilities director, an FNE issue for a couple of years. We haven't had him for that long. He's actually here tonight because he's here for a different topic. We have to fix the foundation before we can reopen it. Question you pose about why can people still go up the ramp is a great question. that will be taken care of right away. We'll have a conversation.
That was caution taped off.
There was tape, but I mean, that's not gonna stop
Right.
kids
No.
or whatever
No.
from not going up there and playing.
So part of the issue about fixing it is the money.
Yeah.
We are the 6th lowest spending district in the state, and we want to fix that. And at the same time, we, between our 2 districts, pulled back $1 million from what we had proposed. So finding that money has gotten exponentially harder. So that's something that as we're
Okay.
building this next budget,
So the next
we've gotta
thing,
talk
the
through
next
it.
thing is I've talked to contractors. I know several contractors, and they've all told me the same thing. That you don't, it's not gonna cost you $50,000-$60,000 if you get contractors in there and they, what do you call it, jack it up and get it all level and keep it level. And SD Ireland and Harrison's have offered cement. They said if you get it leveled, get it all leveled off, and you fill in the rest of the cellar and put it back down on, there should be no problem.
So I can't speak to the,
I've gotten two quotes.
Just $60,000 to me is,
The lowest was like mid-40s, and then the other was 50.
and what were they doing? What were they giving you a
The first one was the basement. They had to excavate around the outside because basically the ground is pushing the walls in. I don't know if there's any perimeter drain. I inherited this mess, so. But I don't know what was done. I don't know what kind of shape that foundation was when they put the building on. So as far as whether you like it or not, what my thing is we're not putting anybody in there with those walls.
Yes,
coming
I
in
understand
At
that.
a 20-degree angle.
Yeah,
So-
I understand
And it's
that.
not, but the problem is, like you said, it's not gonna get better. So, whether or not.
And the other thing I want to point out, and I'm the high school principal, the other thing I want to point out is that we want it open. We
Yeah,
definitely
because,
want
you
it
know, I
open.
had fun. I don't have any kids in, I got grandkids still in school, a couple.
Yeah.
I had fun doing it, and they made good money, and
Yeah.
it's sad
Yeah.
to see that the soccer teams, you know, this whole season went by and we couldn't sell anything there.
Yeah,
Couldn't make any money,
Yeah.
and the boosters are the ones that help out a lot of the stuff in the school. So if they can't make
sure
money,
do.
they're not gonna be able to give it.
Right, and we know that, and also really appreciate, it's mostly moms who do it, really appreciate them, and their involvement is so crucial, and the spirit they help with the kids, and it makes it really fun, and we love it. The question keeps coming back to the money, because, our budget, as Lynn just said, our budget had included some money in it that would have allowed us to kind of do that pretty easily,
Yeah,
but
I understand.
and so I also hear your concern, and I believe you, we're with you. When we figure out how to fund it is something we definitely want to do.
I agree with you too, and the right way to do it is to jack it up and just infill it.
And fill it.
And fill
He
it,
said
and
there
then
should
put
be
and put a slab on.
absolutely no
Yeah.
problem, and I
No,
talked to
absolutely.
3,
Yeah.
and they all say the same thing. If it gets jacked up,
Yeah.
and you fill in that cellar, and then it's all filled in, and you let it back down,
Yeah.
there should be no
No,
problems.
I agree.
But,
If you know-
it's not just that. I mean, for years, the door that you pull down can only lock on one side, because this side is so bent, you can't lock it. And, it's
Yeah.
just, what I'm here for is I'm hoping that when we do get it fixed, because I really do miss it, that it's going to be taken care of. That was a slap in my face when I sent out letters and stuff, or I think it was emails that I sent out, and I got a, notice. Unfortunately, it's not my problem. Whose problem?
No, I hear what you're saying.
And it's a good facility, and like I say, I love doing it.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I'm leaving for Florida, maybe, if I still have a place after tomorrow.
Yeah,
And I won't be here, but I would have liked to have been on something that we see it go. I wanna keep seeing the steps go forward.
Yeah.
Cause if these people are willing to give time to jack it up, and we've got people that are willing to give us some cement,
yeah.
let's not slap them in the face and say, no, we can't do that.
Well, no, I think it would be a matter of just coordinating,
Yep.
the
And I
volunteers.
asked one of them to come here tonight, but
But if they could get in touch with,
It's on the agenda.
Sorry, you're really.
I'm gonna pause us just for a second, because
Yeah.
we're going pretty long on this section.
Yeah.
I appreciate you bringing this. What I'd like to do is put it on the agenda for next month.
Yes.
And then we can bring in information. If there's anything you wanna forward to me, Sandy, in terms of contacts or
Yeah, I wish
anything
I
like that,
That email, because it
I
was like a
mean,
slap in my
with the
face.
concrete
Yep,
piece,
yep.
if you wanna
And I
forward
can
that
give you
along.
my email if you wanna like send me the minutes.
Okay.
You know, if there's anything into it, and maybe from there I can do a lot of stuff. You know, I can call people and see what they're willing to do, and
Well, we'll bring it back to the next agenda. We'll put it on, under yours, and then we'll put the upkeep part on there as well.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Sandy.
thanks.
All right, we'll go.
So we didn't do agenda prioritization.
Right.
I would like to ask that Matt has a spotlight for the high school. If we could take that group of students first to do their spotlight. And then we have invited Todd and Kadeen here with a group that went to Costa Rica last year to hear about that trip. They're gonna talk to us about that. And then you have Caroline Luce on, who's gonna talk about a request for this next year. So are you okay with taking
Yes.
that out of order?
Yep.
So we're doing Matt's spotlight first.
Yes.
Yes.
Spotlight. Yep. And so,
Pull it up now.
can I jump in?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's yours.
okay. So, we, towards the end of last year, we did a faculty-wide, a little bit of a retreat on that last in-service day we had. And we pinpointed some issues in the school that we really wanted to address. Some were around student behavior, some was around some curriculum-related stuff. And so, the direction we went in was to say we need to provide a more solid experience for our ninth graders. It needs to be, well, I'm not going to jump ahead and say their whole slideshow, but we wanted to do a more comprehensive experience that made ninth grade a more solid year for kids as they make that transition to high school. Two or one? Dan's still here. Great. So two of our freshman teachers came tonight to share some information. We have Olivia, or Liv Petrie, our freshman math teacher. She has all the ninth graders in math. And Dan Perella. Dan recently joined us from Florida. So he's a new social studies teacher here, and he has 2/3 of the freshmen in history.
Standing out here, over here, fine?
Yes.
Okay, for starters, I'll tell you who's on the ninth grade team. Sorry. I should have added a slide there. So Dan and myself are both on the ninth grade team. There is another social studies teacher, Luke Weber, on the ninth grade team. We have one science teacher, Noah Johnson, who's new to us on the ninth grade team, and then Catherine Brown is the English teacher on the ninth grade team. So it consists of just 5 core teachers, which is okay. Yeah. So over the summer we met once all together, and then we did some separate work also to come up with some. We started with 5 non-negotiable expectations for all freshmen to kind of make sure that there was consistency between all of our classes. So they were no phones or headphones, which is a school-wide rule, but we wanted to really make sure it was made more effective in the ninth grade. 1 person out of the classroom at a time, being prepared for class, appropriately using Chromebooks, and a policy on turning in work on time with a 1 week kind of extension, I guess, that any late work. So we've had those to kind of be very consistent within all core classes, which has been great. The other big thing we did was change the freshman core classes to more of an A-B schedule, but with a little bit more structure. And unfortunately, it's funky because Tuesdays are our short days and our schedule's a little bit different. So they have their A classes on every Monday and Thursday, their B classes every Wednesday and Friday, and then Tuesdays rotate between A and B every week because they're, 20 minutes shorter. Our classes are on Tuesdays. Reasons that we chose to do this was, the biggest one was we wanted freshmen to have their core classes for a full year rather than just 1 semester. We also have learned and wanted to make sure that freshman students had time to process between classes. And I actually asked some of my kids for some feedback on the schedule, and they said that they like having the time in between classes, so that's been nice. and it gives us more time to assess skills and provide intervention. So some of the benefits we've seen are we've overall seen some more submissions for work in a timely manner, and they've been better quality than we've seen in the past, I think because of that time between classes. And then it also gives us more time to catch students up during our AT sessions if they're absent or falling behind. That's been really helpful.
So when it comes to the support systems there, the idea was really pulling kids out as much as possible in order to work with them. Study halls are really well monitored. The idea is they leave feedback so that they report in what they're doing. It's not just a place for them to hang out until till lunch happens. So this is something that's being monitored. They have to, like I said, check out everything at the end of each session. ATs, the idea is not just to pull out kids who are struggling, but also to be have kids go on a rotation so that everybody gets some face time with the teachers as well. So that everyone's building, even kids who are doing well in the class, that can always have improvement and be able to polish their abilities.
We've also been using AT to work closely with Deb Tanberger, who's our ESD coordinator this year. So that's been helpful to have her involved also. And then the next four are about POL related to our core classes and what we've started working on. So this is what Noah put first.
Can you describe what POL is for people who may not know what that is? Thank you.
POL is Portrait of a Learner, so that's our new graduation requirements. There are 7 leaves and 31 indicators of things that were decided high schoolers need to be proficient at before graduating. And the freshmen have adopted 8 of those. So we're only going to talk about the core ones in this presentation. So the science indicator is conduct investigations, and there's some more depth to that. So what Noah said they've done so far is that they've been working on asking insightful questions and analyzing data and developing clear and robust models. And then their next steps are to focus on developing procedures and methods for investigations, which I think they said they started this week.
You can tell the big difference between the English teacher and the science teacher. All right, so Ms. Brown's been having them work on how to communicate effectively in writing and in speech. So as you can see here, what they've been doing is throughout their readings, is being able to identify what the reading is about, who is it for, being able to identify the voice before they develop their own, and that's really what she's been tackling so far in building those cornerstones for the students to not just be able to do work that's very good, but also work that's personally from their own experience and giving them their own voice. And then on my aspect here for global studies, we're working on researching effectively. Key points here is being able to properly get the information, to make sure that you are presenting everything in a more professional way. We've done annotated bibliography exercises. We're working on next coming into how to properly cite our sources. We're trying to get the kids to realize that there's more than just Britannica.org for when they do their stuff. They want, we're going to be looking into different ideas of academic journals. Asking good questions, what are some specific questions that will make them effective in their research papers. So the goal here is not just to allow them to be effective research, but also be able to present the material so that they are really, taken seriously in an academic world.
And then lastly for math, mine is model with mathematics. So far we've done a lot of practice modeling in terms of our current content, and then actually tomorrow I'm planning on, we're gonna do our first modeling task and kind of as like a, reassessment I guess on what they can do. I've been working a lot with Gab in the past couple weeks on that because I needed some guidance and structure with that, so.
Gab, our curriculum director.
So that is happening more tomorrow in math, and we're gonna have some conversations with I'm going to have some conversations with the students about what a mathematical model is so that they can kind of be a part of that too and building what they think they should be assessed on. I think that's the end of the presentations.
Can I ask you to discuss a little bit more the first part, which was the setting of routines and expectations and how that went, any challenges, any, where you think that's at now versus last year too, maybe.
I can speak to the last year part. Overall, it's been nice having a smaller team of ninth grade teachers so that we were able to do some common expectations that we could all agree on and implement. So I think within the first few weeks of school, we were kind of like hammering those down pretty well. And then in terms of those, I haven't really seen any problems. Like there's not been phone problems in classes, which was definitely a problem last year. Obviously the last couple weeks, like honeymoon phase was over. So we actually, 2 weeks ago, we all decided that like, all right, we're going back over these to make sure that they were consistent, so. I don't know if you have anything else.
Actually, in fact, yeah, we have a assembly planned for next Tuesday to go over even more expectations, just the constant reminders. But they've been really settling into the system very well.
And in terms of, they did some work over the summer, and when we do federally funded work, we have to look at some of the data around it. And it's only been 1 month, but I have it written somewhere. But the amount of disciplinary referrals for ninth graders is way down compared to the previous year and the previous average by month. So that's something we'll continue to look at, as well as the academic achievement. I was going to say something else, but I always forget the extra thing.
It's a pretty low number too of any students who wanted to be in sports and were restricted. I think pretty much a very low number were actually held back because they're pretty dedicated on there.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that is true. I think it was only one out of the whole freshman class at the first round. And the other thing I was going to add is that anecdotally, from the office point of view, I would say last year the assistant principal and I spent a lot of time reacting to situations in the freshman classrooms or with freshman behavior. And this year, that grade actually seems to be one of the best and most contained, and they're really learning about the school practices and how to be a high school student transitioning from other schools. And really we're finding, okay, now some of the lingering issues are with some of our oldest kids who also experienced the disruptions of COVID more, but also didn't have such a cohesive program around them. So we're optimistic.
Can you say a little more about, so on the earlier slide around the schedule, about taking the time between the classes? Can you say what you meant by that?
Yeah, so I think mostly more of like a, Catherine always puts it so well. The English teacher should have been here. What does she always say? Like it gives them that think time and processing time in between classes it gives them time to do homework, which is also good, and then time to just like process the ideas that were talked about and reflect on them.
Yeah.
And I think I had a student say that they appreciate the time between classes to not be like math. They have like a break in between.
I think the variety helps them.
So they have their core class, then they have how many minutes before they go to the next core class that you're talking about?
Are you talking day to day?
I mean day to day.
Like,
yes.
so the fact,
I was so confused.
Yes.
the fact that
I
they
thought
don't
I
have it
understood
every
your
day.
schedule in that. Okay.
Day to
Thank
day,
you.
not in between classes.
Got you. Okay. Thank you both for presenting this. It's very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing it.
Thanks.
Mr. Marlowe, it's all you.
Maybe we can start with some introductions then. Todd Marlowe, I teach science at Richford High School.
Because I'm predisposed. Katie Jeware, I'm the SAP at Richford, as well as coach for track and cross country.
And we just maybe want to begin thanking the board, Mort and Lynn, and you all for having us here. This is something we had wanted to do, and we hadn't gotten on the agenda to do this. Maybe you guys just want to
Are we standing up?
You can go.
I wonder if Todd
Name.
and Katie, could you, okay,
Yeah.
that will work better.
Name
just
and,
because-
Yes.
grade maybe, and what school you're at.
Oh, yes. We're all standing up. Anyway,
Hi, I'm Ava Walker, and I'm a junior at Enosburg. I'm Megan. I'm a senior at Richford.
I'm Harley. I'm a sophomore at Richford.
I'm Caitlin. I'm a senior at Richford.
I'm Mason, I'm a senior at Enosburg.
And we're here to share about our trip with you. We had one of our students who couldn't make it tonight, Haley Plant. Besides going on the trip, the students also worked on some ELOs. Not every student did this, but they could get some an independent study kind of course. ELO stands for Extended Learning Opportunity. And this is hers, so we're going to play that first, and then the agenda might be what we share some of the impact of the trip on each of us, and we end with some board questions for us.
This slideshow is supposed to show what we learned about Costa Rican culture through experiencing it. You're probably wondering what we could have learned about Costa Rica by spending the day in the
Can we
airport.
pause just for a second?
Well, not a lot. However, we did learn a lot.
I don't
about
think everybody processes quite that fast.
No,
We turn
that's
it
too
back.
fast.
We can.
We can.
It's only 8 minutes,
It
we
was
have
just-
time. We have time.
I didn't know
So
we were
fast.
for
We were
time.
really
Yeah,
very much.
it's okay.
Yeah,
I
it
thought
is
you just
even
talked
a
that
video.
fast.
I know.
I know some people are really fast with their processing, but we want to make sure we accommodate everybody who's listening.
Okay.
We're gonna watch it.
This slideshow is supposed to show what we learned about Costa Rican culture through experiencing it. You're probably wondering what we could have learned about Costa Rica by spending the day in the airport. Well, not a lot. However, we did learn a lot about traveling. Those who haven't flown before learned how to go through TSA. We learned to group all the bags together for a friend to watch. We learned how to pass the time, and that 3 a.m. in the airport is guaranteed entertainment. Our first night in Costa Rica was spent mostly getting to know not only our guides, Frank and Marcos, but getting to know each other. We spent most of our night at the pool or in our rooms resting from our day of travel. One of the bigger culture shocks for a lot of us, I think, was the dinner time. Our first night we ate dinner at 7, but with the time difference between here and there, it felt much later. Our dinner consisted of rice, homemade tortilla chips, and pineapple chicken. The Costa Rican food is a huge part of their culture. The kinds of foods native to Costa Rica are different than what we commonly eat. I don't think we went a day without our trusty beans and rice. Pineapple and other fruits were almost always in or beside every meal as well. This day, we spent time visiting young elementary students. They performed a dance for us, then taught us their routine, and invited a few people to play music with them. Our lunch consisted of rice and beans, heart of palm, homemade tortillas, and assorted tropical fruit. This is shown in the top left corner. We got to experience the average school day of a student in Costa Rica. After stopping to visit the school children, we continued driving until we reached the canal where we took boats into Las Tortugas. Here we explored the beach, played cards and volleyball before heading out on turtle watch for the night. We split up into 2 groups and walked our assigned stretch of beach. That night we came across 2 turtles, one of which my group was lucky enough to see lay her eggs. The ecosystem and wildlife in Costa Rica have a big impact on their culture and the way they live. The staff on this beach live there year-round doing research and walking the beach every night. This day we took a boat tour of the canals. We got to see and experience their wildlife. We saw animals including crocodiles, toucans, and Jesus Christ lizards. We also saw a lot of crabs, even finding them in people's beds. For the 2 days, we got to live like locals without electricity. For food, there's only so much variety available because without electricity, it's hard to store the food. After our last breakfast at the Turtle Center, we packed up and headed for Cahuta. On this 4-hour bus ride, our guides Frank and Marcos educated us on the Afro-Caribbean Calypso-style music of the Cahuta area. We went out to the beach where we got the chance to swim. On our walk back, we saw many native animals, including a couple sloths, lots of monkeys, and a snake. Cahuta was a major wind-down evening compared to our time at Las Tortugas. We enjoyed a relaxing evening by the pool, sipping virgin pina coladas and still getting to know one another. This day, we took the bus out to a river that we then crossed by boat. We caught another bus and hiked to the land owned by the indigenous P.E.G tribe. Along the way, we crossed 2 more rivers. We got to spend the day learning about their culture. We spent time learning about the foods they eat and even tried 100% cacao. We were taught how they make roof panels with leaves and even got the chance to sing and dance with them. Whitewater rafting was an amazing experience for all of us. We had the chance to meet some amazing guides that made our time on the river as enjoyable as possible. Before getting into our boats, we one by one jumped off a small cliff and floated downstream to our teams. After finishing on the boats, we got the chance to go to the gift shop and do a little souvenir shopping. Along the way to our next hotel, we got to stop and taste different fruits. Living in a tropical country, fruit is a big part of their culture. We tried different things, ranging from an ice cream fruit to cacao candies and everything in between. At the hotel, we got to experience wildlife in a more isolated setting compared to the resort prior. Different species of cicadas were very common, producing the familiar, loud buzzing sound. We also got to wake up to a little bird pecking on our window. I don't think there was anything as exhilarating as ziplining through the tree line and above waterfalls. Walking up the tower to do the first of 7 was terrifying, but once you went down that first one, they all got easier. By going ziplining, we got to see and experience a beautiful land that is a huge part of the Costa Rican life. Souvenir shopping in Costa Rica was a really cool experience. We started by branching off in groups from a church. We got the chance to go inside and see the art and architecture while hearing a little bit about how the church was run. Walking around, we got to see different murals and pieces of art. Tourism is one of the most profitable trades in Costa Rica, so all of the shops have things that reflect their culture. We saw lots of woodworking, carvings, boxes, and masks commonly painted with animals from Costa Rica. With Arenal being so close to a volcano, hot springs are a huge part of their culture. After going ziplining and souvenir shopping, we went to Los Lagos, a hot spring resort. There were many hot pools, and even one swim-up bar where we drank virgin pina coladas out of pineapples. All throughout the resort, there were natural trees and plants that made the experience have an even more relaxing feel. This day was spent exploring the different species of Costa Rica. Our guide was very helpful in answering questions we had about the animals or their culture surrounding the animals. We got to see different kinds of monkeys, macaws, and parakeets. As I mentioned before, art was a common thing to find while souvenir shopping in Costa Rica. Animals have a huge cultural impact, which is largely expressed through their art. With the trip coming to a close, we spent all the time we could by the pool. For our final dinner, we got a menu with some highlights of dishes we'd had throughout our stay. I think I speak for all of us when I say nobody was ready to leave that incredible place or our amazing guides, Frank and Marcos. They didn't just drive us around and drop us off places, they did everything with us, from cliff jumping, whitewater rafting, to ziplining. By the end of the trip, we had all bonded with them, even coming up with handshakes and inside jokes. Tall boat. Heading to the airport at 2:45 in the morning was definitely a treat. There we exchanged hugs and goodbyes with Frank and Marcos, accompanied with Marcos' wise words of advice for each one of us.
It's your son, Rachel.
Yeah, I know.
Awesome.
So we could just go around and maybe share some of our experiences that we can hear from the students directly.
I'm starting again.
Okay. We don't have to do an order. If you guys just want to share out something.
Talk about your experience at district. Like what you took from it.
I took appreciation for the cold. Not constantly being hot and humid all the time. We get to experience all 4 seasons. Down there, they only really get 1. So.
I made a lot of friends and we definitely connected a lot more through a lot of bonding experiences.
I definitely grew a lot better connection to with a lot of people, and their hospitals are a lot nicer than up here.
Their hospitals.
That's what I thought she said.
Like Katie, a lot of new friends. There's nothing will bond you like kicking a crab out of your room at 2 a.m.
Or cockroaches.
Cockroaches.
Oh.
And you get to bond with people like that I saw every day and like people that I didn't know, so it was nice.
So most of these people here are from Richford, and normally I don't really interact with people from Richford. I grew really good bonds with a lot of people, and although it wasn't the easiest time down there for me personally, I faced it and I absolutely loved it, even though there was a lot of cockroaches and a text saying, "Oh, there's a cockroach in my room, can you please come and get it?" But other than that, it was fantastic.
I'm kind of glad we don't have holes in our walls and crabs don't really get through.
I can share. I think to me the most important thing was really to see the kids gain a broader experience of life and the world, and to get out and experience different things, broaden their minds, and really make that bond, right? To see them 2 schools and then come together as a unified district, right? That was really cool to see. And initially, right, day 1 and 2 was a little rough, and we purposefully paired them together, and they weren't always happy about it. But at the end of it, we were one big happy family, and we were really enjoying the time spending with kids on a authority versus student basis, right? We were all equals, we were all there to learn and all there to take in the experience. And we really, I think, I'm gonna speak for myself, I really grew to love these kids. And it was a really awesome experience, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
It was nice to see this group of students experience the simple life. Costa Rica is definitely a simple life, a more laid back, quiet life. There was time where they didn't have any cell phone access. They had to manage for a couple days. They were making money off of each other if they had a charge left on the phone, things like that, because they just didn't have any service and no way to charge those devices when we were at the turtle place. The projects were about changing the world, and these guys got to impact the world through their work with the Sea Turtle Project. They got to experience the college and meet people from Costa Rica, live kind of the real life that these people live every day, and appreciate that, and appreciate where we come from in the end. So.
They were really glad to be back and not have to eat rice and beans every day.
No, I still want it.
Rachel?
I would love to share.
Yeah.
So I had the experience and joy of being able to chaperone this trip. My son was one of the kids on the trip. And I remember he came home and he's like, "Mom, the Richford kids are going to go to Costa Rica." And I was like, he's like, "But couldn't Enosburg go?" I was like, "Yeah, let's, And it was just a little conversation. And the next thing we knew, we were like, wow, we're going to do Costa Rica. And I would just like to point out too, the work that these students did to go on this trip and fundraise. We had a very, very short window to do this, and they busted their butts and worked really hard. So they did a lot of fundraising. So I really feel like that team building came into it before we even left, and that nice early flight. And I think it was when we got to the turtle place too, that idea of they had a soccer ball, and like that idea of like sports is kind of like a no culture type, like, I mean, it is obviously in our culture and in their culture, but I think really that broke the barrier there and watching them play soccer together, because there was that language barrier, but they all knew soccer, and that was really another great team building. But they really represented our area just so well, and I had a blast. And yeah, it was, you guys got some awesome teachers too. It was a blast to hang out with Todd and Katie, and we had some real intimate moments of needing to be, you know, vulnerable with each other. But yeah, and we had a great time. Yeah, it was awesome.
I appreciate you all coming in to share about this, because I think sometimes these things come to the board and then the board never gets to see the outcome of these decisions. They're going to have the next on their agenda is they're going to have a request for the next trip. So before they get that, I wonder if, Todd, you've done this trip several times. Can you remind the board of like what you use for the tour company and whatever process that was when you kicked it off? Because they might not have gotten all of those details.
So when we went to Costa Rica, we went with a group that just does tours in Costa Rica, which is Eco-Teach. But we've traditionally traveled a couple different times as a school district with EF. There's other agencies like Passport and things like that, but EF tends to be the other one that we do a lot of our travel with. So they probably are looking at traveling with the EF tours, because they travel to a number of different countries around the world.
Okay.
Do you guys have any like specific questions you're wondering about a group that's gone and trying to make decisions around other groups this year and maybe next year? We might come
Maybe
back
next year
to.
we might come back.
How many kids went this year?
21.
21.
Yeah.
Yeah, 11 and
21
10.
and 3 chaperones.
11 and 10, so
11
pretty
and 10,
evenly
yes.
split.
Yeah.
That's great.
It was really cool to see the blend of the Richford and the Enosburg kids. I know like Ava made a joke, but they still do have those bonds, and I think being a unified district, that's just so important to see that blend. And it was pretty even, man.
And it was
Yeah.
pretty separate the first day.
Yeah.
But by the end of it, you wouldn't have been
You
able
wouldn't
to
have
tell.
even known. Nope.
And some of them still hang out.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. I hang out with you a lot.
And maybe that was because as leaders, the three of us really wanted to make sure that the trip was integrated by the end, and that we set that out, and they rose to the occasion. We set that out before we even left. We want you guys talking to each other. We want you, laughing, crying together, do all the stuff that you do.
And they did, by the way, all of it.
They did, all three. Just as soon as we got to the airport.
They helped make room assignments together, and they made sure they intermingled. They arranged each other around dinner tables, and so like it wasn't like we had to do it. They took that on and owned that.
That's great.
Is 3 enough? You got 3 chaperones, right? Is that enough for that many kids? Or
That was a good number. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
We had to get really confident, but 3 was good.
All right.
3 was good.
Yeah.
Can I ask, in terms of the number of chaperones, it sounds like you had 2 tour guides who were with you the full time.
Yes.
So that would have helped with more adult presence,
Correct.
right?
So our tour guides, they were fluent in English, and they were, with us every step of the way. They're the ones who took care of accommodations when we got to the hotels. They checked us in, and they basically left it up to all of us to assign the rooms to kids. And so we would just basically hand out keys. They told us what time to get on the bus, what time we're gonna leave in the morning, what time your stuff needs to be packed, what time. So they took care of the brunt of it. And I think this is why we really enjoyed using Eco-Teach specifically for Costa Rica. They're so organized, and they became family. I still talk to the tour guides. I text them every now and again, and we'll send pictures back and forth. And for Christmas, I think we have care packages coming back and forth still. So yes, so the tour guides did most certainly help, right? Kids who struggled here and there, we were able to split ourselves up and tend to the kids as we needed to, or them tend to us, depending on what was going on. But no, it was definitely good. Yeah.
It's great. Thank you all so much for coming and doing this.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bring my kid home.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to tell you something quick. I know who can help us figure out who I emailed because I called
you,
her
Al.
and Sally Pasha.
Thank
I
you,
told
Todd.
Nate gave me the emails, so I know it was Nate and the principal and there's one other person, so I'm gonna see if I can find it.
All right, thank you.
Should be in our snack box. Should be in our snack
Morgan?
box. It seems indefinite.
No, I think it's in.
Got one more, right?
Which one? Yeah.
I'll see if I was here yet.
Caroline, are you still on?
Yes, I
It
am.
was my first year and I didn't know.
Did you have a request for us?
I do. So for the ones who don't know me, I started teaching French last year in Enosburg. Not at the beginning of the year, but about 3/4 of the year. And happy to have joined for this year for the full year. I wanted to propose a trip to France for July next year. So I might be a bit more prepared than you think I am, I don't know. But I have, I hope Matt had my email on time. And I'm hoping he had time to print a few things for you guys. And I do have a slideshow. I am recovering from surgery, so I apologize if I don't even share the video because honestly, you don't want to see me right now.
She said she really.
Oh, through
Okay. Couldn't be here, so
Matt is just
And
passing
normally
them
it
out.
would be AJ Banas and myself, but AJ had a conflict of schedule, so I told him, that's okay, I will cover from my bed. I hope you don't mind.
That was fine.
You can share your screen.
No, you don't want me to, okay, yeah.
No, for your.
Sorry, yeah, no, I'm sorry. I thought you were about to say your camera. I'm like, no, you don't want that.
No.
So. As soon as I figure this out. Yes. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. Alright.
If it's easier for you, you can send it. Oh, it's about to share. If it's easier for you, you can send me your slideshow and I'll share it for you while you talk. This is Courtney.
Yeah, Courtney, can you hear me?
I can. You can send it to me.
Okay, yeah, as soon as I started sharing it, my microphone just went off, so I'm gonna send you my, my slide. I think it might be easier.
Okay.
It's gonna take me a second. Go share Courtney. Just give me a sec.
yeah, I never got it.
Courtney
No,
Fletcher. There we go. Alright, I just sent it to you. So while we're connecting those, I'm glad the trip to Costa Rica went well because it kind of opened the way for me to say it's great to have the kids go to different countries. We are also not just making the trip for France and French, but also for music, which is why AJ Banash and I are organizing this trip. And all I did was research the companies that we're good to work with, and I'm glad EF was mentioned because it's the one that seemed to have the best to offer for a trip to France. So they're the one I'm in contact with, and I asked them for a quote. I asked for what kind of trip they have, and this is the trip that at the end we chose to present to you as a potential trip to France next July. We also chose July because we didn't want to keep the year too much. It's an 11-day trip. It started 9 days, but we had an informal meeting with some of the parents because we wanted to see if anybody would be interested in the trip. And the parents were more excited than the kids, and the kids were excited, so that was a surprise to me, a good one. And they all insisted on that 9 trips to have those optional extra 2 days, which is in London. So it's 9 days in France and 2 days in London. And we can show you on, we're gonna pass that video because it's a few minutes, and I'm gonna say the things it says on that video so you can pass that one. Courtney, please, thank you. So I'm not gonna read all the slides. I'm sure it'll be in the meeting minutes, forgive my French accent. And I will comment on each of them, so we don't take 2 hours for that presentation. Why do I want to take the French kids to France? Because I think practicing in the country where they speak French is really a big plus when you learn a language. I know because I learned when I started living in the States, so I can attest to that. And France is fun. I know it's not always what it seems to be, but all the places we picked I've been to, and I absolutely love them, and it's beautiful. I don't know if anybody has been in France, but I know I'm biased because I'm from there, but I really want the kids to enjoy and discover what they learn about. So it's only my almost full second year, but the kids are pretty excited to have the opportunity, to potentially have the opportunity to go to the country where they can practice the language they're learning. So EF sent me that slide to help with the presentation to you guys, for you guys tonight. So if you can go to the next page, thank you. So originally last year, when I started thinking about it, I started talking around to other teachers, what do you think? Is it a good idea? So I talked about the kids, what do you think about that? I also reached out to the teacher in Richford. And I'm hoping it's still an opportunity for us to combine Enosburg and Richford. I met with the new French teacher, who's really nice. We haven't really went into details because between the beginning of the year, this presentation, and my wonderful health issues, I got detained in my house a little too much. So I didn't have a chance to really include Richard, but I'm hoping it's a possibility. If Richard, principal, can let me know if it's something we can talk about.
Caroline, I think I'm sorry, I should let
Yes, go for it.
I was going to say, at this point, I believe that our trips are FNESU wide. Richford has, like Todd Marlowe, right?
Yeah.
Todd has organized the last trip and included Enosburg kids. So I would want it to be district wide, and Beth is giving the head nod. Yes. That was my expectation when you started organizing. So we would want to
that'd be great.
we would want to get a Richford staff member on board pretty soon.
Absolutely.
I think that the person we have is just so new that his plate has been full just with the start of the school year. Yeah.
Oh, I know. I had a chance to meet him, and I've been helping him with a certain aspect of our jobs, and I can tell you, yes, I know his plate is really full. I'm not going to say mine is not full, but I'm too excited not to hop on board. But I will reach out to him, see if he's still interested, because he seemed interested when we talked during the service last at the beginning of the year. So I'm hoping we can. And you won't have to take on too much. AJ and I can really take most of the load and guide him through. Courtney, if you can. Thank you. So I went with EF because they were recommended by a lot of teachers I talked to. Some of our staff in Enosburg and some of the staff in Richford. So they were the best rated in safety, in price, in pretty much everything. So I'm glad the teachers for Costa Rica mentioned them. They put on that slide all the details about every aspect of the trip, really. All I can talk about is how excited I can see the kids in the possibility to go to France, how much they're anxious, I think would be the word, to try to speak, because in class they're not always, they're very shy. And I told them, over there, you won't have a choice, you will have to try. So that's one barrier I'm hoping the trip would help them pass. If we can go to the next. So that's one of the reasons. They're very experienced. There's somebody to help you from the moment you pick up the phone and ask for information till this detailed slide presentation. And they already showed me what the website would look like, and up till the end of the slide, you have everything up to the price at the end, and all the IDs we can incorporate to the trip. We can change some aspect of the trip, and AJ and I talked about including a concert for music. Certain places I wanted to specifically see, and some others I'm like, that's not as necessary or as interesting as this or that. So we were able to talk to them about how can we make it more our particular trip. Courtney, if you don't mind. Sorry. So this is the gist of the trip. The trip would start in Montreal because it is a lot cheaper than it is to leave from Burlington. After talking with the parents during our little informal meeting, we only had maybe a dozen people, parents and kids combined, and it seemed to be a good idea at the time. Of course, now nothing is written in stone, so everything is still, up for negotiation. But we tried to go for the best and the most, price friendly, which is not easy when you talk about another country. So Paris, and it does a loop from Paris to the Loire Valley, which has all the castles, back toward Brittany, that has the old abbey in Mont Saint-Michel, Saint-Malo, who has another church, a beautiful church to visit, then back to Normandy in Caen, that has another castle. Also included in this trip will be some of the beach from the department. So we're going to incorporate not just music, language, but a little bit of history, which to me is really important. And back to Paris, and the last 2 days we'll be flying in London, visiting London, and then flying back home from London. If you can switch to the next page for me, please. This is more of a breakdown. Again, just a general guidance because nothing is written in stone yet, but that's a general idea what it would be. Flying from France, taking a walk around Paris. We would spend 3 days, I believe, in Paris. It also includes a little detour by the Chateau de Versailles. I hope I don't say it too much in French, so it's understandable. Seine River boat tour, Notre Dame. Then when we leave Paris to go to the castle, we would be able to see at least 2 or 3 castles back around the Loire Valley. To the next page, please. And on day 6 is when we start going toward Brittany for 1 night, and then Normandy, and then on day 9, we actually take the train underwater to London, where we would spend the last 2 days and visit London, I believe after that it is the Walking Tour of London, the Tower of London, and on day 11 we would be flying home. So that's the goal. Now we have to put pictures of food because I'm not gonna lie, my favorite part of going to France is eating. And the kids also know that. When we talked with the students last year, at the end of the year, they were asking a lot about the food. So like they talked about Costa Rica, it's the same thing. I mean, if you ever learn about or talked about French food, I can't even start because they're gonna be stuck with me all night. So I'm hoping they can experience the language, the food, the culture. The kids I talked to last year, the students I had last year, seem to have mixed information about what the culture is in Europe and in France in particular, and I'm hoping to open their horizon with that. Not just because I'm from there and I know it's a little different, but it's the best part. It's the best part.
Caroline,
yeah.
you are doing a fantastic job. I'm being a little sensitive about time because we have a big budget portion of our meeting, so I wonder if we could speed to the ask part and then the board can ask questions if there's anything missing, and then maybe could we share the slideshow with the board?
Yeah, you can share that. Courtney has it, so please feel free to share the slide. So basically my request is for the support. We're not asking for funds because we have a plan in place organizing a lot of fundraising around that trip. It's planned for the end of July 2025, which gives us about 10 months, maybe a little less now because I was hoping to talk to you in September and I missed my chance. But we have a lot of ideas on fundraising because it's an expensive trip. I'm going to go toward the end and jump to this. The very last slide shows you the price. The price for the trip we looked at. It's expensive. Right now on the list from last year, I haven't taken into account this year's students. We have about 20 students and half a dozen chaperones on waiting list who are interested in going. If we join with Richford and adding this year, I'm sure it's going to be a lot more. We agreed with P.E.G when we started talking about this, and I'm hoping you'll support that, is not to go more than for one bus. In France, the trip from EF has a bus and a tour guide on top of the chaperone and the students. The tour guide comes with us everywhere, France and England, and he's bilingual French-English. And I'm sorry, I just lost track of what I was saying. I have so much to tell you that I'm trying to reduce. And so bottom line, it's 11 days. Everybody agreed that we should reduce and not pass the amount of one bus, which is about 46 students and staff combined. Right now on the waiting list, we have about 20 students for Enosburg and half a dozen teachers. So we still have room. And then we will go obviously by priority to French and music students.
Great. So Caroline, what we're requesting tonight is the board's approval to move ahead with planning this trip. That would include fundraisers. The chaperones we would work out. I'm a little bit particular about who we allow to go as chaperones, so we'll come back to that. But it's really about
bottom line, I'm asking for support.
Correct.
For the approval and the support of the school board.
Great. So the board's going to ask some questions now, Caroline.
Yes, please.
If you want to. You don't have to.
But I just think that we need to probably put a cap on the amount of kids that go. Obviously, we don't want 40 or 50 children. I think that'd be in excess.
Can you say more about why?
Just as long as we have enough chaperones for that many, I just think we won't have enough chaperones.
I think that I would trust Beth and Matt to make sure that if there were 40 kids that were interested in going, I wouldn't want us to be in a situation where if they feel confident with the number of chaperones, they've both done a lot of trips in the past.
Have we done one this size in the past? I'm just curious.
I don't think she's saying you have 46. I think part of the thing, Caroline, Caroline, one of the things
That's
I've
all right.
seen with international trips is you have interest from 20 people, but when it comes to coming up with $4,700, you may not really have 20 people. I think that some people will drop off.
Actually, it's kind of a yes and no for both. We have interest from about 20 students and 6 adults, and we gave them the potential price last year, so they knew the amount. It was about the same price last year when we looked at it. We gave them the potential price, and they were all interested. The parents were on board, but as you said, we don't have 46 or 40. We only have right now an interest from 20 kids and 6 adults. Some of them are parents, some of them are teachers in the school.
That's not counting Richford.
I just remember the last trip we did have, like, we capped it and we filled within like the first week.
Yeah.
Is what I was. It's
so you.
Oh yeah, I'm not counting a lot of them.
We capped to
coming.
20.
Those are
We went
the
to like
interests. I'm
21. We said
confident
20.
that
We got
not
21.
all of them will still be on the list at the end, but we didn't ask this year's students yet.
So I think the takeaway is kind of what Lynn summarized, if that's okay, Mort, which is that we would, how many kids we would have go would be correlated with how many trusted chaperones we could get, and that we wouldn't send more kids unless we felt like we had trusted chaperones.
The chaperone these trips is a really big deal.
It is.
Yeah. It's a huge responsibility, and it would be something that I wouldn't bring to you or let come to you if I didn't feel like I trust them both explicitly to make sure that they have the right number of adults and that they are the right adults that are going
pretty
on the trip.
fussy about if it's
May
staff.
I comment about that?
If it's staff members, being really clear about the expectations. If it's parents, being even more clear about the expectations, and having some track record from anybody who goes on the trip.
Okay.
Do you have?
I think they should cap it. I just don't think we should arbitrarily cap it here.
Right. I just want to make sure that.
We hear you.
Yeah.
We'll be careful about that. Yeah.
That's why I asked Todd how many he had, because he felt like that was the right amount number for what he had.
I would agree that feels like a nice number. I would also agree with what I think Lynn was starting to say, which is when it's a long distance from I'm gonna, because then if you have spending money, it's like, well, you need $5,000 to getting there, and not everybody can get to that point. So we will see. Do you have any more questions for Caroline?
No, this is amazing.
No. Okay.
Okay.
So we would ask the board to make a motion to approve the Enosburg-Richford French trip for the summer of 2025.
Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Sarah made a motion. Akua?
Aye.
Devin?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
And I'm an aye.
Fantastic.
Thank you. And
Thank you very
thank you,
much.
Caroline.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark, could we take one other thing out of order? Could we go to Beth next, and she's gonna step out?
Yep. Absolutely.
Do you have anything to add to your report?
No, it's all informational.
Any questions on hers?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you.
Beth.
All right.
Okay. Morgan?
So one action item for you this month. Last month you gave Mary Niles proxy for the VISBIT annual meeting, which is being held on October 25th. The VHI meeting is held same place about 15 minutes later that morning, and you get to elect proxies for that meeting. So if you're still comfortable with Mary, I would want a motion to appoint Mary Niles as authorized representative to appear and vote on behalf of the board at any and all meetings of the members of the Vermont Education Health Initiative or any adjustment thereof.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Akua made the motion. Sarah?
Aye.
Devin?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
And I'm an aye.
The auditors were on site last week. We had 4 of them this year. We normally have 1, so they're doing a much deeper dive than they've done, I think, since COVID. I think a lot of that has to do with staffing of the auditor's office. As far as I know, everything has been good. They've got a few follow-up questions, more paperwork they want to see, but we are on track to have a draft of the audit in December, and I believe it's going to be clean.
Good.
And then we'll spend a little time with your first look at the FY26 budget. In your board packet, I've linked, I think for a second time, a letter that VSA, VSBA, and VASBO put out to the field, which I think does a good job of laying the groundwork of some of the challenges that we see ahead for the FY26 budgeting season. So I encourage you to read that offline when you have a chance. I've also linked a letter from Governor Scott that went out to the field, a little bit of a retort, and it echoes many of the same themes, but it also, I think, highlights what the messaging may be this budget season out of the governor's office. So good to be cognizant of that as well. When Courtney's got the slideshow up, so you can go to the next one. So we start with the budget development schedule. This is our first board meeting tonight. We will spend probably more time at your November and December regular meetings digging into the budget with the idea that we will finalize it at your January 14th meeting. We can push that off about a week or so if we need to and still meet your warning deadlines. But the hope is that we get it in the can that night. On December 1st, we will get the tax commissioner's yield proposal, which is one of those 4 numbers that drive your property tax rates. This year, we are told that we're going to get some initial CLA numbers then as well, which would be helpful. Usually we have to wait until after Christmas for those, and that comes as a bit of a shock and causes us to do some rebudgeting in January. So the hope is that we'll have that early, and then we will have the first version of your student count by December 15th, so a little bit after your second board meeting. I think that with the change in how we're counting kids in Vermont, change to that formula, I will be able to come up with a pretty close number early on in the season, whereas in the past there were some data points that nobody in the field had, so it was just a sit and wait. So I think we're going to get better information earlier in the year. At your annual meeting, you will still elect a moderator and a clerk, but based on the vote this year, everything will be done Australian ballot on town meeting day. We do need to schedule an informational meeting. This year, the deadline is between February 22nd and March 3rd. Lynn and I will bring a proposed date to you at one of your next few meetings. We need to coordinate that with NMV, which also has to have one. Those meetings don't need a quorum of the board. We hope you're all there. They don't need a clerk or a moderator. There's nothing official. The board chair kind of welcomes everyone in. And then depending on who's doing the budget presentation, can punt to us or can do it yourself or do it with a group of the board. As in years past, we will recommend that you have to have an informational meeting. We will recommend you have at least one public meeting in each community. There are 2 seats up for election this year. I believe it's Devin and Josh. So one from Richford, one from Enosburg. The deadline to get your petitions in is around January 25th. I'll certainly get that paperwork out to you both well in advance. It just requires 30 signatures from a voter in either town. And if folks are watching us on Zoom or online on TV after and you're interested in running, you can reach out to me or one of the principals and get information on how to do that. We try to ground all of your budget conversations in the board goals. I won't spend a lot of time on this because we'll keep coming back to this slide, but reading on grade level by 3rd grade, social emotional learning competencies, and then student-centered learning. We also try to anchor it in terms of what we're seeing in terms of current enrollment and enrollment trends. So this data is almost final, and if you look up above the 2024, those are actual kids that we counted in your schools on October 1st. So the 2023 to 24 trends are a little bit of a dip at Richford Elementary, a bigger dip at Richford High School, dip at Enosburg Elementary, and then a big shoot up at Richford High School. And then from the years 25 through 29 on that graph are what our projections are. So we are at this point anticipating that Enosburg High School is going to see some growth over the next couple of years before they flatten out. Richford High School is staying relatively steady over the next 5 years, similar to Enosburg Elementary. A little bit of a dip in Richford Elementary before that levels out. And those projections change from year to year. This is the last year that we have a COVID generation in the data that I use to do the projections, so it might be a little different yet the following year. And then we'll also share with you just district-wide. You'll see that on October 1st this year, we had 1,103 kids, pre-K through 12, in our system. We're anticipating 2 years of growth, and that sort of levels off, and it will hold steady in the 1,140s. And again, those projections will change from year to year. We talk about some of the big factors we see coming down the pike in terms of the budget, and we will add to this list as we go on, and this will be a basis for some of the talking points when we're in front of your voters in March. There's no one in the state who doesn't think we're going to have anything less than double-digit health insurance premium increases again. We will come up with a guesstimate before we hear anything official from VHI. I will probably start using somewhere in the 12 to 15% range. I feel that is probably as accurate as anything. We will be entering negotiations with our teachers union shortly. We are in mediation with our support staff union. Lynn will talk a little bit about that later. And that is for this year. If that mediation results in a one-year contract, we'll immediately go into negotiations for them for next year. And so basically, as we are building this budget, we don't know what you're going to be paying your teachers next year, and we don't know what you're going to be paying your support staff either this year or next year. So there's going to be some uncertainty there. Also, I am anticipating you will see an increase in high school students. I haven't dug into the numbers for you yet, but I know in NMV they're going to be graduating a big 8th grade class, and you tend to get the lion's share of them. So we'll look more specifically at what schools those kids are coming from. Obviously, the Berkshires and the Montgomerys send almost all their kids to Richford and Enosburg. It's a little different for those that border VFA. We'll do a speed round on staffing. This is data that you're getting a month earlier than you have in the past, but with staffing really making up probably 90% of your budget and most of the discretionary part of your budget, we like to get this in front of you early. And one of the things I want to point out right at the outset, you didn't see on that additional consideration slide bringing in positions from ESSER. So we're sort of through that cliff that's already been absorbed in your budget. And so now as we talk about staffing changes, we can really focus more on programmatic changes rather than the sunset of that grant. All of these are subject to change, especially when it comes to paraeducators, because they tend to be kid specific and we've got a mobile kid population. I have also not sat down yet with Michelle DeBerge to go over the special education budget. And what we're seeing is a lot of movement between paraeducators who are, maybe in the local budget 1 year and then get that additional micro-credential training to work one-on-one with special ed kid, and then they move into the special ed budget. So we're trying also to track not only what the impact is to your general fund budget, but to the adult count overall in the schools. So in terms of the general fund, the very first pass, based on conversations with the principals, and if there are any errors, we will put them on me. Enosburg Elementary, the addition of a guidance position, and that's a person that previously had been funded out of the federal pot of money, CFP. We are needing to move staff in a couple of schools out of that if we want to keep them into the general fund, just because of the pool of money that we are anticipating is available.
Is that a filled position?
That is a current position, yep. It's a person who exists. And then the dropping, at least in your local budget, of a paraeducator position. Enosburg Middle High, not a lot of movement yet. We had a 1.0 work-based learning coordinator that was shared between Cold Hollow, Enosburg, and Richford high schools. Cold Hollow was able to fill their half-time portion of that, but that person did not want a full-time job, so we had this quarter that's unfilled in both of the high schools. Matt is proposing taking that out of the budget for next year and then bringing the Spanish teacher back up to full-time. We brought that position down to 2/3 time in budget round 2 or 3 last year, primarily because we knew that person was not interested in full-time for this year. So adding that back. Richford Elementary at this point, just reduction of a counselor half-time, again in part of the round 2 or round 3 budget moves. At least in the budget, we proposed temporarily moving a half-time counselor from one of the other schools to Richford Elementary to help with some of the vacancies they've had with existing positions, and that existing position is still in the budget, but that half-time position is moved out. Richford High School, again, a move from CFP of a teacher who's currently 0.8. And they would stay 0.8 but move them into the local budget. Again, the reduction of that work-based learning position, which we haven't been able to fill, and then addition potentially of one paraeducator. And then at Cold Hollow, this is really just moving that guidance position back full-time to Cold Hollow, which is where we had borrowed it from for that budget round. So any initial questions on staffing, and then I'll tip you that at the end of this meeting is generally when we say, okay, in this case, no real major changes to what we are proposing to offer in the schools. Is there anything that you guys want to consider adding or taking away? So get to that. Okay. So next up is I will spend a lot of time on this slide over the next few months. We have talked a little bit about change in statute on how the CLA is calculated. And I just wanted to show you visually kind of the impact of that. And so in this chart, FY20 through FY25, that second to last column, is real data. So you'll see we had a district tax rate of just over $1. It was probably $1.03 or $1.04 there on that black line. Richford's actual tax rate after the CLA was $96.22 this year. Enosburg's was $1.3872. And again, that's after you apply the CLA to correct for those grand lists. In FY26, anticipated, what I've done is I've taken the same spending, so assuming that nothing else changes, what would the impact be of the law with that change in the calculation of the CLA? And so you'll see that the tax rates you're seeing on the bill would be exactly the same. Richford would still be looking at 96 cents. Enosburg would still be looking at $1.39. But the district level tax rate before you apply those CLAs is significantly higher. Nothing else has changed. It's just the math they're doing behind the curtain And I think the intention of at least one of the people who proposed it is to sort of make it so that boards could not, in this case, look at that decline from FY22 to FY25 and say, look, we are bringing your tax rate down, when the major driver of that was that everybody's property values were going up. So they're trying to take that argument away from you. What that is going to mean is that we will, if we're presenting information the same way, we'll really need to do some education with our voters around why that change and why that district level tax rate looks so high. And again, we will have some real numbers to apply to that in December 1st, we're told, rather than December 26th, so we have at least one more board meeting to navigate that. Okay. This is Lynn's favorite graph. You will see this is FY25 data. I will switch it this year from ed spending per pupil to homestead tax rates, primarily because people understand tax rates. They can sort of tie it back to something that makes sense. They don't understanding what per pupil ed spending is, no matter how hard we try. But again, the numbers paint the same picture. You'll see when you're looking at this in a legible format, you'll see there are 4 towns at the bottom of the state, or 4 districts at the bottom of the state at the $1 floor. So their budgets are probably below that, but they're capped at $1. 2 more districts before you get to Enosburg-Richford. So in terms of tax rates, we're 7th lowest in the state. And then another 6 points higher than that, you hit Northern Mountain Valley. The red lines on the chart are the other towns in Franklin County. And then the 2 black lines are the statewide average, about middle way in the state, and then Franklin County average about 25% of the way up.
So although this visual is one of my favorites to prove a point, it's also a visual that hurts my heart.
Yeah, me
And
too.
I know this is about tax rate, but there's a complementary one about, what our education spending is for our students, or our per pupil spending. And I get it, in terms of the impact on the tax rate. And at the same time, when I think about equitable opportunities for our students, this is sad that that's what we can spend and compare it to the rest of the state. I know this is tax rates, but in the other visual.
But the spending is the same, and we're in a place where roughly
Aren't the ones
from the
below-
bottom to the top, it's a kind of 1-to-2 ratio.
Aren't the ones below us too? Some of them are just sending districts too, right? They're not.
Well,
Some of
the
them are
other
doors,
ones,
which don't even
Right.
maybe have any
Okay,
kids.
that's what I
Right.
thought.
Yep.
Okay.
Because you said the gores could show up
Yeah.
Yep.
there.
That's
That
what I
would
was
be for
curious.
students.
Yeah.
At the annual meeting, we will have the opportunity again to ask the voters to do something with your reserve, the money left over, basically from last June. The auditors and I are at a number of $430,000. So in the past, we've asked for half of that to go into capital reserve fund and half of that to go down to buy the tax rate. Unless you want to start right out of the gate with a different direction, I'll probably use that for the initial budgets that we propose, and we can kind of see where we land in terms of what you're comfortable putting in front of the voters, and can certainly ask for it all or ask for none of it or any number in between. And they passed that article even as they defeated the budget and did not give you authority to borrow money, so people seem to be comfortable with that. And that's it for the first dive. Next month, I will be bringing you a more detailed staffing list. We will have our initial salary projections and benefits projections tied to that, and probably at that point we'll start to have an idea of where the supervisor union assessment is going to come in. Big part of your budget in terms of expenses. And then I'm hoping by December we will have some accurate guesses in terms of how much high school tuition you'll bring in, which is not part of your expense budget, but it does drive where your tax rate ends up.
Any questions? Okay, Lynn?
Okay, so I will start with personnel, and this is a pretty short section this month. So there's one action item. I'll ask the board to make a motion to approve hiring Andrew Besso as a quarter-time 0.2 FTE full-time equivalent virtual math teacher. Matt has open positions that he was not able to fill, so he is using that funding to be able to have someone who could work virtually with kids that are doing some of those, is it some of it ELOs or is
Some
it
of
all?
it's ELOs and some of it is flexible pathways.
Okay.
We didn't have, because we didn't fill one math position and our interventionist, we filled at 0.6 versus full-time, we didn't have anybody to assess or grade or grant credit for any of the virtual math classes. So I got the okay to advertise for somebody just to do the virtual component.
I make a motion.
Do you have a motion?
Make a motion.
Sir? Debbie?
Yes, I.
Rachel? Akua?
Aye.
And an aye.
Okay, I don't have anything under student except for the fabulous students that were here tonight. Oops. Oh, wait, I do have something before I go to students. I have an executive session discussion that I would like to have with the board, and I'm going to propose, because it's late, that we push that to the end.
Okay.
And it's really about, I'm going to ask the board for guidance on how you want me to approach administrator negotiations. You have several administrators that are up this year. You have Nate DeMar, Robert Fair, Heather Hawkins, Allison Witherspoon, Robert Jarvis, Jim Hubbard, Kadeen Jouer, Laura McGraw, and Michael Wolf. And those are not all in, like, building level administrators, but they are on a contract that is more of a full year or not a traditional teacher's contract. Okay?
Yep.
So can we move that to the end?
Yes.
All right. Nothing under students. Some great pictures that Courtney was able to add in there that give you an example of what's been happening in our schools with our students since the start of the year. I'm going to give you some data. I'm going to speed over this a little bit. Is there not a visual on yours? Okay. So I'm going to speed over this a little bit because Morgan went over the October 1 enrollment numbers. You all have this in your email now. So that is just the comparison of your schools over time and includes the projection out for the next several years. Is there like a double click on these slides or is it just slow?
It's showing up on my side.
The next one gives you the historical information about grade levels, pre-K through 12, and what does that look like across the Enosburg-Richford district. So this is sometimes really helpful information when we start looking at how many students are, like how big are these classes? Do we have big groups that are going into the high school or small groups that are going into the high school? So for example, that 8th grade group from 2023 was 70, and then it was a really small group that went in 2024, the 48 students there. That doesn't take into account students from other districts, but it just, some of the information in this graph is useful when we think about planning for the future, and it also includes the projections for each of those grade levels. On the next slide, this is information Morgan hasn't put together like this before, and this is for the whole supervisory union. So that gives you a sense of where we have been and where we are now with our pre-kindergarten population of students that we're serving and what our projections look like as we move forward. What do our numbers look like across the supervisory union if we were to look at the kindergarten through 5th grades total together? You can see how those numbers are changing and are projected to change. If we were to look at just our middle schools, look at those numbers together, those are the numbers that we have right now. And you can see that we're projected to, again, in that line, continue to grow. In our 9 through 12, if we were to look at all of our students together, that's what our numbers look like. So you can see that this year on July 1, 2024, we had 1,931 students. 2 school years from now, we are expected to cross the 2,000 mark. We are the 17th largest supervisory union in the state, or system in the state. And we just did some data work with the Agency of Education, and there are really 2 groups, or the way they group schools is you have the largest schools and then the mid-range schools and the smallest schools. We're the biggest of the mid-range, and we are within 50 students of being in the larger district cohort comparison for the state. So every year in October, I need to give you information about class size, and this is becoming increasingly more important as we navigate challenging budget conversations. And Morgan already gave you information about the number of teachers per student, the number of administrators per student, and so on. So I've asked each principal to give you their October 1 class size report, and so you had that in your board packets. And this gives it to you, I know you can't see it from your vantage point, it is in your slides. It gives you the minimum average per policy in the 3rd column, and it gives you each school's average. And you can see there we're at or above our minimum class size, a little under at Richford Elementary in K through 2, but we're really close. Actually, no, we're not. It's only the all others under K through 2 that we're a little bit under. Everything else we're over for both of the elementary schools. We are over our minimum thresholds in Enosburg Middle School, and we are a little under at Richford Middle High School. They have a few small groups in a row that they have at the middle school right now. So, any questions on the class size report? You also have class size comparison. Courtney, if you could click into the middle high school data. This is data that we have been pulling together for the last couple of years, and I think it's getting increasingly more important for us to be looking at this and looking at the size of our classes as we face ongoing difficulties with our budgets. So this is showing all of the classes we offer in both high schools. Where they have it in common, you'll see 2 numbers in those rows. And if it isn't offered in one of our schools, you'll just see a blank there. So this reflects semester 1 courses. So just because you don't see something in semester 1 doesn't mean they don't offer it at all. It might just be coming up in the semester 2 course plan. So I'll ask you to take a look through that. It's a lot of numbers to look at in the meeting, but if you want to have a conversation about that when we come back for the next budget discussion or the next meeting, you're welcome to. There are some, I've had ongoing conversations with both Matt and Beth about the importance of us really looking at what's the number of classes that we can offer, and when we're talking about minimum class size, we do still have some classes that are quite small. We have some classes that are right in the range of where we would expect them to be, but we do have some that are small. And I do understand part of the challenge is that you have this add drop period at the start of a semester, and you think you've got a class with 10 or 12 kids in it, and then you have several that choose to transfer to another class, and so you end up with some smaller classes. But it's definitely a place where we can continue to have conversations and should continue to have conversations.
Can I ask a quick question real quick while we're on this? So, I'm just going to use math as an example, right? So, right now in semester 1, there's Algebra 2 Accelerated that's offered, right? And I'm talking specifically to Enosburg, but not a regular Algebra 2, right?
There is an Algebra 2.
There is a
There
regular
is an
Algebra
Algebra
2 right now that's being offered?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's okay.
There's both.
Is
So-
this oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm just trying, and I'm using this as a personal example because my son is in Algebra 2 Accelerated because we were told by the math teacher there wasn't a regular Algebra 2. So it's shorter, it's a shorter period And so he doesn't get that double block is kind of how I'm understanding it, right? Because the other class, it would be a longer class period.
No, it's a double block.
It is a double block,
Let me
even
look-
for the accelerated too. I'm just curious,
Yeah. No,
because
I'm
it was
gonna
like,
look
it's
up
a
the schedule 'cause I'm
requirement for the spring semester. So I was just curious, like when you guys are planning classes or like, you know, like or for the year and looking at, are there other grades where it would affect them? So like algebra 2 is a requirement for pre-calculus, which is offered in the spring. So I was just curious, like the freshman class or like the sophomore class compared to like the junior class, is there like a group that's like where it doesn't almost line up? Does that
There's a ton of strategy that
okay?
goes
I
into
was
planning.
and I'm sure there are.
Yeah.
I was just curious, like how that compared to like classroom size. Like if you know there weren't enough kids enrolled, would there be a group of students even if it was that 4 that it would be like, well, now you're gonna have to like double up in math in the spring or.
Well, it also, we have options now.
Okay.
Because we have courseware. So we have the ability to shift some of our courses into a different mode. And it's not for every course, but we would have some flexibility to shift. The other thing that I'm gonna continue to talk about is we have some opportunities, although they're not as, I'd be great if our schools were closer, but we have some opportunities to think about the courses that we offer in both, because there are barriers. There are many opportunities and there are barriers when we look at our course offerings. And one of the things that I'm constantly thinking about and looking at also is, what if kids want to attend Cold Hollow but still want to access some of those higher level courses? How can we be strategic about scheduling to make sure that there's an opportunity for both of those things to be able to happen? And I think that there's some strategy that maybe could include ways that we could work with one another. So these are just the things that I don't want to make us not have the higher level courses, but at the same time, we have to look at our investments and we need to look at, you know, our whole MTSS continuum and how does that work in terms of how we support students that need additional time and support. And we obviously aren't going to be able to fund extra positions, but I think that we have to keep looking at the positions that we do have and then evaluating the right size.
Okay. Right.
Any other questions about any of
You
the
kinda
class
answered, I was
sizes?
just gonna say, is this information provided to the guidance counselors to kind of push that projection out? You know, especially the smaller classes, can we get, you know, look at projections, what we get coming in for 8th graders?
Yeah, I don't know do the enrollment projections go to your guidance counselors as they're prepping?
So the main, I think no. The way that we tend to determine which classes and
It's still there.
is it a fly?
Mosquito.
A mosquito. I hate mosquitoes.
It's gone.
Good. Thanks. So the question was, okay, so when we first start building the schedule, kids put in their requests, like what they're interested in taking. And then we go through all of that and we say, okay, about how many sections does it look like we're going to need for these different things? And sometimes I end up nixing classes. So it's like, okay, if there's, so for example, this year we have, last year we had 3 AP classes in the math department. We had computer science and calculus and statistics. And when we looked at the numbers, we didn't have enough to have both statistics and computer science this year. So we picked the one that had the greater number of students. And so maybe we'll offer computer science on an alternating year because you don't have to be a particular grade to take it. And so that would allow us to kind of shift when we offer things, you know. So maybe next year we'll have computer science and not AP statistics. But kids would be able to take it between their junior, senior year. We also work really hard to match up classes that seniors are likely to want with the morning, because mostly Cold Hollow has seniors in the afternoon, Cold Hollow juniors in the morning, so we try to have junior classes in the afternoon. We had a big request, for example, a good chunk of students for pre-calculus. And in the past, we had the issue that if we only had one section, half the kids wouldn't end up taking it. And so So we have 2 sections this year. Part of the year it's one semester it's in the morning, one semester it's in the afternoon. So that allows more kids to, take it.
I think your point is well taken, though. It would be helpful for both you and Beth when we're looking at some of these projections for, we have our October 1 this year and thinking about what does that mean for October 1 or anticipated start of the year 9th graders next year. So we can be looking through and putting some strategy into, we have 30 fewer freshmen or we have 20 more freshmen. So some strategy into, how many sections would we need to offer if we had that many students. So that might be a useful data point to share with school counselors. Any other questions? I'm just making a note of that so I don't forget. All right. Let me go back.
We lost Akua for a minute. I have to let her back in.
So I won't spend a lot of time on student data, but I just want to point out that we have a team of people that are working on student attendance. It's obviously incredibly important that we get our kids to school. We want to see those numbers increase. The family engagement team that we have across the supervisory union working in all of our schools, supervised by Michelle Irish, our director for the advancement of educational equity, are working specifically on targeting improved data around student attendance. So they're doing a lot of research to see what kind of evidence-based practices have we not yet tried to try to improve that data. So you can see that this is taking a look at all of your schools across the ER district. So you have a range of attendance percentiles from 90 to like 96%. So that's going Richford Junior High, Richford High School, Enosburg Middle School, Enosburg High School, Richford Elementary, and Enosburg Elementary when you look across that data set.
Do you have a comparison from last year with that?
I can get that. I didn't print that. I can bring that in November. So fall 23 to fall 24. This is the attendance rate if you look at your grade levels. So you see a downward trending line for attendance as the students get older. So that's something that is not unexpected, and it's something that we want to improve upon, obviously. So we always have really great numbers in our pre-K. Fantastic attendance there, and it holds strong through much of the elementary school. And we see that dip happen at like 8th, 9th grade. This shows you by weekday, so just is there something going on a particular day, and I did this by district, and it's interesting, the trends are not the same between the two districts, and you're serving different populations, so the data set on the other side is pre-K 8 student population, and this is a pre-K 12 student population, so kids are coming strong here on Mondays and Tuesdays. Monday's not so much on the NMV side.
Did Tuesday increase for us after the shift with the
It was down a little bit last year, and I think it's up this year. I don't remember from the fall, but I know when we looked at the data, there was a dip on Tuesdays last year. We see that it starts to decline as you get later in the week, and Friday is the day that we have fewer students that attend. That just looks a little differently. We have a low Monday and a low Friday, and a pretty level Tuesday to Thursday on the other district. And this is based on ethnicity, and so you can see across. This is a data set. It ranges from around 84% through right around 100. So the labels across the bottom are American Indian, multiracial, African American, Caucasian, Asian, not specified, Hispanic, declined to specify, Pacific Islander. I don't know the difference between not specified and declined to specify. Maybe one is blank and one is declined.
A box that says I prefer not to answer.
Okay.
And then if they don't answer at all, it's the
Decline.
no.
Or the Didn't
Did
specify.
not. Yes, sir.
The last is gender. So you can see that our girls are coming to school more regularly than our boys, and it is the opposite in the NMV district. Our boys are edging out the girls in the NMV district. So it's just it's a data point to think about.
Yes.
Interesting.
Any questions on the attendance? Okay. I'm gonna skip over Costa Rica because we already did that. I'm gonna give you a negotiations update. So we have, as Morgan said, notified the union of our intent to negotiate the successor agreement for the teacher's contract. So that should start, I would say early winter with the teachers, late fall, early winter. So I'll give you an update as we learn more about that timeline. Remind me who was on the teacher negotiation team? Sarah
Nakua.
Sarah Nakua, okay.
The same on this side.
It's the same on support staff? Okay. So I'm gonna give you a support staff update that's a little more complicated, so I'm gonna keep myself focused by reading from prepared notes. So this is where we are, where we've been and where we're going. So the board negotiating team and the Cold Hollow Education Association union met 4 times from January through March this past year. On March 25th, the board and the union declared that they were at impasse and they agreed to mediation. The board and the administration have been eager to come to a resolution on this matter. It had definitely took longer than it was expected to come to a date for that mediation. It took our lawyer working with the NEA UNISERV director to schedule the mediation. So over the course of several weeks, we proposed, I think around a half dozen dates, and it was just last week that we finally finalized a date. So we will be meeting with the union on October 21st to do the mediation, and we're ready to work with them to get that behind us. So as was agreed upon in our ground rules, negotiations are done in open session, and so either side can share the details of the formal proposals. Additional conversations outside of a formal proposal cannot be shared. So the last formal proposal offered by the union was on January 22nd. The major changes it contained included the addition of a 30-minute paid lunch, 4 paid days in case of snow days, 2 new and using 2 existing CTO days, 3 additional contracted days for in-service training for support staff who work directly with students, 3 additional paid CTO days, 3 additional paid holidays for school year staff, and 1 additional paid holiday for year-round staff, a 403B plan with an employer match of up to 5% of salary, a $2.75 wage increase in the 24-25 school year, and a $2.25 wage increase in the 25-26 school year, an additional 50-cent wage increase for a lead behavior technician, and an additional $2 wage increase for a lead cook. The last formal proposal offered by the board was on March 25th, and it contained 3 additional contracted days for in-service training for support staff who work directly with students, 3 additional paid personal days if the current CTO time is converted back to sick days, increasing annual buyback of CTO time to the employee's daily rate. Currently, they get paid at the high school step 1 rate, 2 additional paid holidays for school year staff, and a $1.25 wage increase for the 24-25 school year, and an additional 50-cent wage increase for a lead behavior technician. There were additional language changes that both sides contemplated during the process. Mediation is one step in the process. If mediation is not successful, the process moves to fact-finding. In fact-finding, a neutral fact-finder will hear presentations from both the union and the board, and they will issue a report of their findings. The report will become public if the agreement is not settled within 10 days of publication. The board can impose a contract 30 days after the fact-finder's report if there is still no agreement. To give some historical context, the board last negotiated with the support staff union in the spring of 2023. During that negotiation and the one prior, the board used data to determine that the compensation for our support staff was not competitive with either the local job market or the support staff compensation in other districts in the surrounding counties of Lamoille, Franklin, Orleans, and Caledonia. As such, the board's efforts resulted in our support staff agreement outpacing many of the schools in our neighboring counties. Raises received by support staff over the past 10 years. July 1, 2024, there was no salary increase because we're still in negotiations over that. July 1, 2023, $2.75 increase. I'm just going to say the year now. These are all July 1. 2022, in the agreement, it was a 75-cent increase, but we entered a side letter with the union changing that to $2 as a catch-up provision for that support staff. In 2021, 75 cents, 2020, 50 cents, 2019, 75 cents. In 2016, 17, and 18, they received a range of 25 cents to $1, and that was because of the agreement that was negotiated at that time to go from having 5 separate district agreements into one merged agreement. So it was the raise they got had to do with where they were on the steps at that time. In 2015, it was 50 cents. In 2014, it was 50 cents. In 2013, it was 50 cents. So that's where we are at this point with the support staff agreement. We hope that we'll have more information to be able to share at our November meeting. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Sorry, was that a question? No. Okay. I have asked Vern to join us today, and I will say you've been sitting very patiently, Vern. Doing a great job.
Sitting still.
He's still awake.
So we've been, Vern, you all know, I'm gonna say it out loud in case anybody is watching, is the facilities director that we have hired for the supervisory union. So his job is to really look at the condition of all of our buildings and to try to figure out what's the best plan to be able to navigate the work that needs to be done. The reality is there were decades where we were not doing any real substantial work in our buildings. We had a little bit of money at the end of a year, and a principal could figure out how to navigate the process of, a paving project or fixing a boiler or something, but it was all on the principal's plate. Now that we've hired Vern, he is the one that takes all of that on. One of the things that he's been attending to is the asbestos that exists at Enosburg Elementary School and Richford Elementary School, and so he's gonna talk to you a little bit today about what he's thinking in terms of a plan for addressing the asbestos abatement that we would like to do in both of these schools.
So I was actually pleasantly surprised when I got here. I really expected it to be worse with the asbestos. But really, we've got 2 major schools that have got some, and for the most part, everywhere else we're in pretty good shape. We had a really great summer. We got a lot of exciting things going on with some projects with heat and everything. So it was a good summer. I haven't really talked to you guys at all. I can't remember the last time I came to an ER meeting. But so, anyways, I just kind of highlighted what we've got. The first one is Enosburg Elementary, and this school was built in '67, which was prime asbestos time. So if you look at the map, the yellow is what we've got for asbestos currently. We abated the lobby last summer and the 2 bathrooms and put in a new floor there that was desperately needed. And then the other part is the additions that are not asbestos. So basically all these classrooms in yellow need to be abated. I did a huge one at City School in St. Albans years ago, and we basically let them in $2 million in one summer, and we just hit it all. I know we're not gonna be able to do that. What I'm proposing is taking 3 to 4 classrooms a year. I reached out to EHM, who is our asbestos abatement company, And I gave him, you know, like all these classrooms on the left side are 30 by 30 classrooms. So I reached out to Paul and he gave me, you know, it's about a $12 or $13 a square foot to abate these rooms. So basically, we're basically looking at $11,000 a classroom to abate them, and then obviously go in and put new flooring in. The mastic on the cove base is asbestos. The tile on the mastic is asbestos. The hallway is all mastic is asbestos. So basically, guys, what we've done is the rule of thumb back in the day when you didn't have the money to do it the right way, you encapsulated it. So we basically carpeted over all these. So they're encapsulated, they're safe, it's not airborne. We all know asbestos is fine if you don't, get it airborne. So we are encapsulated, it's not a safety issue, but I really feel like we have to start looking at starting the ball rolling. I mean, Enosburg Elementary School has got great bones. It's a great school, it's a cinder block, it's not going anywhere. It's gonna be there a long time. So I think we really need to start thinking about starting to do 3 or 4 classrooms a year. This is my 3rd year, and we started talking about this the first year, but there seems like there's always something that trumps. I mean, this job is cake if I had money, but we don't have that kind of money to put into the whole school to abate it all. But like I said, we started this conversation about 3 years ago, and we've tabled it because there seems like there's other things that have taken precedence. But I think it's time that we take a look at it and start nipping away at it. And I think 3 or 4 rooms a year would be a decent number to take a look at.
So what we're asking from you is, as we're building this next budget, which would include next summer, we want you to give us some direction about what you're comfortable with in terms of what we add into the facilities budget to think about abating this asbestos. Can you talk a little bit about Richford?
Yeah, we'll get that one next. So basically, when I got here, the one thing that I concentrated on is getting mechanics in these schools fixed. And right now, knock on wood, I'm probably gonna shoot myself in the foot, but right now, we're in pretty good shape mechanical wise. So now I think it's time to start looking at some of these other things. PCBs is a new asbestos now, so I guess we gotta start nipping away at the asbestos now. So, but I just think we need to get a plan together. But Richford Elementary, the gymnasium is all 9-inch square tiles. I gotta say, I'm very, very proud of what we've done in a lot of these schools in Richford. Kelly's got a pretty good insight of what she wants, and we've really, the school looks a lot different from 3 years ago. We were able to, just last week, we got the soffits done. We got a beautiful maroon looking soffit. Kelly's ordering a sign for the school. I think it's gonna be great. But their gym is in tough shape. It's kind of embarrassing. So you're looking at, it's 3,247 square feet. That's the gymnasium and the office of the gym teacher. So I called Paul today with these dimensions, and I kind of wanted to get a feel for what we're doing. So he said, again, $12, $13 a square foot is a pretty safe number to do. With the high ceilings, quite frankly, when you do asbestos abatement, the worst part is getting the containment building up, and that's what takes the most time. So what I would propose there is if and when we do that job, I don't know if you guys have any of you been up to Montgomery Elementary, but Danaher calls it a pilastic floor. It's a poured rubber floor, and it's a great. I think it would be a great product to put in that school, being that it's a multi-purpose room. It holds up really well. So I reached out to Danaher Floors, who does all our gyms for us, and they're the best at it. I mean, if you look at Enosburg High School and Richford High School, I think you got 2 of the best looking floors in the state. Because Danaher is that good, and that's why I use them. So I reached out to his wife today, who does the floors, and she was saying we're looking at about $54,000 to put a rubber floor in, and that's if we don't have to bead blast. Moisture, when you take up a floor and you're down to concrete, you don't see the moisture like covered in a asbestos tile because it doesn't show up as much. But if we get to that point, if we want the product to do the best we can, we've got to do a moisture test on that concrete. If there is a moisture problem, we've got a bead blast, which is kind of like sandblasting if you can picture it. And then we would seal it with a sealer to encapsulate the moisture. So that would be a $5 a square foot addition to, I'm just trying to give you guys the worst scenario. We don't know what we're doing at this point. But these are a couple of things that we wanted to look at, and realistically, with the exception of maybe a couple of mudded joints in the ceiling, I don't know of any more asbestos in your school besides this gymnasium.
No, my understanding when I got there was that was the last room.
Yeah. Just to give you guys a little heads up, with 10 schools, the asbestos books were a disaster. And to no one's fault, it's just one of those things. So I reached out to our company that we use, and they're going through the books right now to get them updated so we're up to date. So I didn't have these books to kind of reference back to, but I know for a fact that just being in the school and looking at the prints, I know where the hot spots are. So I guess we're looking for direction from you, how you want to attack this, if you want to attack this. You know.
What's the other options for the floor in the gym? Because it's 60,000 just for the abatement, right? And that's.
Yeah. So I will tell you this, we've got 2 floors that I totally despise. One of them is at Enosburg Elementary School, and the other one is at Sheldon Elementary School. They're basically one step above linoleum. They fail, the joints fail. They're like if you go to a hospital, the welded floors when they put it together. They fail miserably, and it's not a good product. So more, I guess I would say this plastic or possibly a wood floor, but the wood floor you're gonna have to build up with sleepers, and so there's not a lot out there.
You did do wood in Bakersfield.
We did wood in Bakersfield. We just did that gym over. That came out beautiful as well. It's out there. We could get a price on that if you'd rather have it. The wood look.
I'd like to have a price comparison, I think.
Yeah, I would definitely, I can do that for you, get that to you for the next meeting.
Okay.
Richford's kind of a unique school. I've never seen a school with, I still don't know what the name of it is. It's kind of a prefab wall with a canvas on it. It's the strangest setup I've ever seen with walls. We did 2 bathrooms this summer, and we had to cut it out and frame it. We hired Sylvie and Brian Dusso, who I want to tell you are 2 of the best, and they made our hallways look incredible.
Did
And
an
they
awful lot of fixing.
Yeah,
It is, and the walls in the gym are horrendous.
And if we're gonna do that, and if for a dime, and if for a dollar, the ceiling is, so.
The ceiling is in terrible shape.
Yeah, so we need to visit that at some point, and I'd like to take a look at things like that. We've got the PCBs coming down. We don't know where we're going with that at this point in time, but.
Well, we do know in those
It's kind
two
of,
schools.
yeah. But again, those two schools, pleasantly surprised, there were nothing there as far as that, so. Just looking for some guidance, if you guys want me to, go deeper into this, I certainly would be interested in giving you a price on a wood floor.
Yeah, I'd like a price, I'd like a price on the wood floor.
Yeah.
Maybe even the ceiling or the walls.
Yeah.
The whole package, what it costs.
Yeah. I think if you're gonna do it, let's, I put a brand new floor at BFA, it's a project, but when it's all done, it's beautiful, Right.
So do you want me to, I'm guessing you don't wanna give
For
direction?
Richford, no direction for Richford.
So do you wanna give any direction tonight to Vernon Morgan about Enosburg for budget, or do you wanna wait? What would you like? Would you like them to do it all at once in November, or do you want something?
My sense from you is that I should put it in your first draft of your budget for FY26. This would be summer work, so be a July 1 start. So I'll get prices from Vernon, put those in there, and we'll back out if we need to.
And I mean, just so you know, every school in the state's dealing, and like I actually called Paul to the EHM, and I can reach out to other companies as well, but they fill up pretty fast.
Yeah.
So and then we got to coordinate enough to get that done, and then I got to have flooring contractor right behind us, getting a floor in and making sure that we're ready for opening day, so.
So in November, I'm gonna invite Vern back. You'll come with, specifically to talk about Richford Elementary School. And bring back numbers around gym floor with both that rubber and the wood option, and ceilings and walls.
Next month is actually at Richford Elementary School.
Perfect, we could go on a field trip. We can go look at it.
Can give everyone a scraper.
It'll inspire you to.
Yeah, everybody bring a scraper and a
Right.
mask, we'll be all right, save some money.
What better,
But,
better motivation?
Enosburg, I think I'm ready to move on that. I think I just have to start on some
Yeah,
Enosburg.
so I mean, are we comfortable, so let's just say it's gonna be 11,000 per room. I will also get I can get flooring, prices for you as well for November.
Right.
And decide on what we're gonna do. We're shying away from VCT flooring. We don't have the bodies to strip and wax it anymore. We're going with the vinyl planking. We did her, art room with a square planking that looks really nice. We need to work smarter as far as what we're putting in there, because we just don't have the bodies to take care of VCT floors the way we need to anymore, so.
Exactly.
So I can definitely get some pricing on that as well.
So the one question I have about Enosburg, and this is gonna be where you're comfortable in terms of budgeting, is I've gone through this when I was the principal of Berkshire, and we did like 3 phases, and then one summer we had a huge phase. A lot of your costs are about like taping everything off.
Setting it up.
It's setting it up and venting and all of that. So I get the 3 rooms a year, and we will pay extra by doing it that way. So I wonder do you want more information about what would be 3 rooms a year, what would be like a third of the building, a half of the building, like taking it into like multi-year steps, because I know it up front will cost more, but you'll save money in the long run because you're not gonna have to pay them to come back and do all that tenting and venting multiple times.
Is there any money at the state for any of this?
I'm gonna be honest with you, I haven't looked into it, I certainly can.
I think I saw something.
Yeah,
I'm
I
sure
mean,
if
keeping
forward
up
to
with
you.
what they have for grants right now and everything is, but, yeah, I mean, when they come through, she pushes them along, and if you've seen one.
Yeah.
she's doing
I
it.
I've
think
not seen anything for asbestos.
It wasn't
It's
asbestos specifically, but it was air quality.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a stretch or not, but.
But yeah, I mean, like, I do think that, I think the more we do, the better the price will be as well. But whatever you guys feel comfortable with, I will do.
It'd
Like
be
I said,
cool
it would be
seeing the
great to be able to
comparison.
go in there and abate it all in one summer, but it's gonna be a pretty astronomical number.
But bring back different variations,
Yes,
right?
please. Okay.
Please.
Yep.
And Vern, were the 2 high schools taken care of back when they were both renovated?
Yes. We're asbestos free here. So.
Any other questions for Vern?
No, thank you.
I'm all done.
Not for Vern, but I do have a question for Morgan as we're talking about budget. Is it possible to do a theoretical budget that includes the abatement and the items that Vern talked about versus one without it? We can have sort of 2 options to look at.
Yeah, I mean, I will bring you one with that included, and I'll just have it itemized so I can tell you if you're not comfortable with where this budget is ending, we can take out X, and that would be the dollar equivalent of this project or that project.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
So the only thing I have left is that executive session for administrative negotiations.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Kelly?
Everything is informational. I was gonna highlight the facilities, and Vern started to do that. I did put in some pictures of what the front was and what it now looks like with the painting underneath the windows and with the maroon metal around the fascia. If you look at that one picture of the front of the school that has the new metal around the top, we're going to have that's where we're gonna have the sign, it'll say Richford Elementary, it's gonna be in like a brushed metal, it's gonna show really nicely. And
Fantastic.
it's just,
really
it has
good.
been,
Excellent.
just looks very institutional, and I wanted to do something on the outside, and you know, we got the new doors and the whole new front, and then, you know how it goes, you start fixing things up, and then everything needs to be fixed up. And we've done a lot inside, and I can't, you know, say enough about how Vern is on top of everything.
Getting there.
Like, he gets it done that day, so.
And we even got a new window in that hallway, right? The gasket window.
We did, needs to be fixed, but we have one.
All right, Jen?
All informational, and I was just gonna highlight today, started off wonderfully with preschool parents coming in for breakfast. And we had breakfast pizzas and we had great attendance, and tomorrow, the same event will happen for pre-K, so it was a great way to start the day.
Preschool meetings too, right?
Yes, yes.
Matt?
You heard a lot from me tonight. The snack shack, the French trip, the 9th grade teams, everything else is informational.
And anything from Nate? Just information.
No. Well, I will add, he was able to get an $80,000 equipment grant out of some extra gear money that came from the state, so he's got a backhoe coming for the the forestry program. And, Josh was able to add an additional accreditation that kids could earn for heavy equipment operating before they leave. And I think that's focused on being able to drive the backhoe and the bulldozer.
Nice.
So that was exciting. I visited today, got to go into the automotive class and saw this new, I don't know the names of these things, but a tool that they use for tire changeovers, and it's more state of the art rather than the ancient system that they were using. And I also got to go into the construction room, and in a box there is a very expensive tool that is used for plumbing, pipe fitting, and you know, the threads and bending. There you go. So they're very excited about all the grants that the grant that they just got and all the equipment that they were able to bring in to help really prepare kids for when they go to the workforce. These are the tools they're going to be using, so now they get to practice and use them at Cold Hollow. He also reported today, just they're not quite done at the sugar house, and they're waiting on a contractor to return back to finish, and they're feeling a little pressure on that. They've got some maple sugaring equipment coming in later this month, but they're on track to be solid for the sugaring season this year.
The insulating took a little longer than what we expected up there, so you can't put walls before you, so it's beautiful. I don't know if any of you guys have gone up there, but the siding is, it's gonna be a beautiful facility when it's done.
Okay, board business, we'll go right into executive then, there's no board business.
Sure.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Sarah made a motion. Kua?
Aye.
Devin?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
And aye. Do you need anybody else?
No, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Have a great year.
Thank you.
All right, entertain a motion to come out of executive.
I'll make the motion.
Rachel made the motion. Akua?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Devin?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Okay. Per the executive session, there's no motions to.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? All right, entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Rachel made the motion. Akua?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Devin?
Aye.
I'm an aye.